right, and we are live. Welcome everybody to Lubbock Compact Live for Wednesday, August the 23rd. I am your host, Adam Hernandez, here with my co-host, Josh Shankles. And we've got another great show for you today. We've got some great guests in the building. We've got the Freedom Act team, friends of the show who have already been on once before a few weeks ago. And we were talking about the decriminalization of marijuana effort that is happening right now in the city of Lubbock. We also have Austin Zamhariri with Texas Cannabis Collective, and they are a lobby group that lobbies at the state level for decriminalization and or legalization at the state level. And so we've got a lot of information on here. If you need questions answered or if you're not sure about something, please feel free to put your questions down in the comments. We will see them. We will answer them live. Austin's here to answer your questions, and I'm excited. Let's just get right into it, guys. We got Kim Gonzalez here, we got Cannon Roberts, and we have Austin Zamhariri. And Josh, let's get it going.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Austin, thanks for being with us today. We're so glad you could be here. It's not often that we get to talk to people that are working at the statewide level, so that's a treat for us. Yeah, let's just get right to it. Austin, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself in a second, but since we've just launched this effort, it's probably no news to anybody here, but we're officially underway with the Freedom Act Lubbock signature campaign. Kim, Cannon, maybe you want to just catch everybody up, tell everybody where we're at and how it's going so far.
Cannon, do you want to start it off?
Sure. I can start off. We officially launched last Friday. I guess that wasn't that long ago. It hasn't even been a week yet. And things are underway. We've been working on this for a long time, and have been out doing our education campaigns. But even with all that, I don't know that we expected it to start going so fast so quickly. We haven't done our launch yet, but yet we have given away lots of petitions for people to go and collect signatures. We've been seeing those signatures come in. We've been seeing voter registration come in. Kim, I'm assuming you probably can give some more definite numbers in all that. But there seems to be a lot of excitement, and it doesn't, while we've been doing that education for a while, just telling people what we're planning on doing and actually walking up to strangers and saying, hey, will you sign this petition, is, it's different and it's a little nerve-wracking, but it hasn't been difficult. So far, I have walked up to quite a few strangers already and said, hey, this is what we're working on. And for the most part, unless they are not registered to vote in Lubbock and can't, I talked to some people last night that said, I'm in Hockley County, I'm in Crosby County, but they were very supportive. And so we've just kind of been really excited and overwhelmed by the support we're seeing and the excitement.
Yeah, Kim, get in there. Tell us about some of the
Last weekend was an absolute whirlwind. So Adam took the paperwork down to Citizens Tower about 10 a.m. on Friday, and news stories started hitting social media about 10:02. And as soon as that happened, everybody wanted the petition. Everybody wanted to sign it. I had numerous visitors on my porch picking up petitions all weekend long. That continued today. Signatures that I know about that have been turned into me are over 500. We know that there's lots and lots and lots of people out there that are still collecting that haven't even reported numbers to me or haven't given them to me. So I'm not exactly sure where we're at, but we're on track. We had a goal to get at least 125 a day. And I would say that, we're hitting that target fairly easily. There's a couple of businesses that have the petitions out for us collecting. I have no idea where they're at, but these are, busy businesses that see a lot of traffic. So hopefully they're capturing lots of signatures, and we've got a full lineup this weekend, but I don't want to talk too much about all of that without giving Austin a chance to introduce himself.
No, that's the perfect transition, because, this thing getting underway is the culmination of a lot of effort, and a lot of hands have gone into that. Austin, your organization have definitely helped us along the way. So let's bring you into this conversation. Introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us about the Texas Cannabis Collective and kind of, give us a little bit of level setting there.
All right, well, y'all, thank you so much for having me. My name's Austin Zamhariri. I'm the executive director of Texas Cannabis Collective. We're a 501c4 nonprofit here in the state of Texas, dedicated to news media, advocacy and activism, and events surrounding Texas cannabis policy, industry, and culture. And so we really just try to act as a beacon of energy and information and education. We try to really keep people up to date with what's going on through our social media assets. We, like you said, we're engaged in activism at the state legislature, through local communities throughout the state. And then, we've done a ton of events. The most recently, we did the Texas Cannabis Roundup, which was an industry professional event here in Dallas. We have a marijuana march that we're doing here in downtown Fort Worth, and contracts with the city have already been signed. We're anticipating 1,000 people to show up and exercise their First Amendment rights to protest bad marijuana laws in the state of Texas here in Fort Worth. But specifically when it comes to Lubbock, yes, we've been engaged. Normally, the idea has been that in order for marijuana laws to change in the state of Texas, it had to be done through the state legislature. And so we've diligently, session after session, me and my team, even before we were authorized as a nonprofit, when we were just really a kind of a group, we were really engaged at the legislature, pushing decriminalization bills and legislation throughout the Texas Congress, and really medical expansion. We've worked on some legalization expansion or legalization measures, as well as the hemp market, and really covering how the hemp market has transformed Texas cannabis as a whole. And so through all that time at the legislature, as you may know, marijuana is still very much illegal in the state of Texas. Flower is still considered a Class B misdemeanor, under 2 ounces, Class A misdemeanor under 4 ounces, or between 2 and 4 ounces. And any kind of marijuana concentrate is still considered a felony here in the state. In fact, we had a Dallas cowboy that was arrested for marijuana concentrate in possession of a firearm, which is funny because the possession of the concentrate is a felony. The unlawful use of a weapon or unlawful possession of a weapon is only a misdemeanor, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's Texas for you. And so really, we realized that there were a lot of communities that could work through city council to really deprioritize cannabis as from an enforcement mechanism. And so we started working early in 2018, 2019 in places like San Marcos and Denton. And then lo and behold, in 2022, there were a lot of campaigns. Austin, of course, was the first city to decriminalize using a ballot initiative through their city charter. And that was with overwhelming success. And so through that, other local organizations that we had been working with, specifically San Marcos and Denton, also jumped onto these campaigns and utilized this ballot initiative. In San Marcos, we were successful with 80% of the vote. In Denton, I believe it was 71%. And just to be clear, you guys are pretty familiar with local elections, that nobody wins by 71%. Nobody wins by 80%. That's, I mean, maybe some jurisdictions, but you need quite a huge number of the electorate to get that kind of turnout. Just for reference, the mayor of Denton in his May election received approximately 5,000 votes, garnering about 53% of the vote. In the November 2022 election, where Prop B was put on the ballot, I believe it brought in 33,000 people. Wow. That voted in favor of, with 71% in favor. So clearly, this is a very, very, very unifying issue. It's extremely bipartisan, And I know even in conservative areas like Lubbock, this is also true. And that's why I'm excited, I think, to get on this campaign, is that we can really show other people of the state that, yes, even in conservative areas of the state, this is a popular issue that people are ready for.
Yeah, and you've kind of given some background about all of y'all's work, and you're really unique in the fact that you guys do focus on statewide, but you've also now seen this from the local level, and you've seen these processes play out. We're very familiar with the local level government processes and how that works, but we're not very familiar with the state processes, other than we know that most of the time you got to deal with committees before you'll ever get to the legislature. Here, we get to the city council much quicker. So from your perspective, could you let everybody know, like, what are the differences between advocacy on policy at the state level and working it within that system versus working at the local system?
Well, I think for the purposes of this campaign that is already kicked off in Lubbock, just to be clear, we always get a lot of people who are like, oh, why can't we just, put it on a ballot and put it up for a vote like they did in Oklahoma under Question 788, or Colorado or Washington, or you pick the state. And that's because there is no statewide ballot initiative in the state of Texas that's actually written into the Texas Constitution. And there are Senate and House joint resolutions that can be utilized to facilitate a ballot vote for all of Texans to vote on, but those are exceptionally rare and almost hardly never make it across the finish line at the legislature. So having the ability to go and gather signatures really does, I think, put it back in the citizens' hands. Otherwise, at the state level, we're pretty much forced to work through the legislature. Even if we get a joint resolution across the line and the people voted yes on it, it would still have to get kicked back to the legislature to really work all of the logistics out. So no matter what, we're always going to have to go back to the legislature in Texas. Whether that's palatable for the public or not is unfortunate, but I think that's the biggest, most stark difference. Also, when you're working at the legislature, you're correct. A lot of bills are pre-filed before the legislature meets. Our legislature only meets once every 2 years for approximately 140 days. City councils meet, it depends on the city.
Yeah, twice a month. Yeah,
twice a month, right? And so there's definitely a lot greater access to that governing body at the local level. A lot of state representatives work within districts that are pretty either very squarely red or very squarely blue. I hate to say that they're completely gerrymandered, but those of us who work in politics understand the dynamics and the nuance of how those lines are drawn. So you typically know who's coming back to the legislature every session or so. And so there's not a lot of control for the average Texan to really make an impact of bringing in new fresh blood, which is much different at the city council level. Every single vote at the city council level is incredibly important and literally means everything. There's not a lot that you can really do, statewide in who represents the state if they're outside of your district. But really in your local city council, you have a tremendous impact of influencing that vote, and also influencing the work that's going on at city council, if you will. So I think those are the biggest differences. You're right. We do have to, there's a bill process of how a bill becomes a law. I think we're all familiar with Schoolhouse Rock and I'm just a bill, only a bill, right? And the process is similar, in Texas as it is federally, but it is a gauntlet. And when your legislature only meets once every 2 years for 140 days, and let's be honest, the first month of that legislature is a lot of just getting people in their place, and it's a very slow moving process. So it's very difficult to get anything across the finish line. And so, whereas I think at city council, this is something that you can continuously work on, even through an election. And there's a lot more maneuverability locally than there is statewide or federally.
Yeah, that's a lot of great information. And before Josh or somebody else asks a question, I just want to kind of reiterate and kind of highlight what you were saying as far as the power that the vote has on the local level. And we tell people this all the time. We have plenty of examples that we can go through Lubbock's history, election after election, where whole elections have been decided by dozens of votes, 12 votes, 5 votes. So it really, when people talk about their vote counting at the local level, it really does count a whole lot. And so this is no different. When you're trying to get something passed like this, we need every person to go out and vote for this, or to sign the petition in the first part. But just a reminder for everybody that you do need to be registered to vote in the city of Lubbock. And so get registered. We can actually make this change. It's very, very possible. So with that, I'll just pass it off to whoever else has questions.
Well, I wanted to
No,
talk
no.
a little bit about, sorry, Josh, about the
No.
influence, Austin, that you were talking about that city councils and local initiatives have on the city, because I know that you've been helping out in College Station somewhat with their initiative as well. And there was some big news out of College Station recently with some changes there and some decisions made by entities that weren't the city. So do you want to fill us in a little bit about that?
Sure. So yes, we've in the past we were engaged with Denton, Killeen, San Marcos specifically. And then after those initiatives passed in 2022, we went through the legislature, and coming out the other side of the legislature, we kind of had a general idea. Patrick, Abbott, Paxton, Hager, they all came back. We knew they were all coming back. And so with that, we just kind of operated on the worst case scenario that nothing was going to change. And in fact, that scenario did play out. And so we knew that moving forward, we would have to go back to the local level, right? And so we already knew about Freedom Act Lubbock. We already knew about this campaign back in March, April, somewhere in that time, in the heat of the legislature. But then we also found out about College Station. And the interesting about College Station is that campaign is actually being run by a lot of the doctoral students that are doing groundbreaking research in biochemistry and hemp genetics. And this is like revolutionary work that has not ever been done. And it's pretty revolutionary. And these are the guys that have decided to take up the mantle of decriminalization locally in their community. And AgriLife is already kind of well respected as being the premier hemp resource center for Texas research. There's West Prairie A&M. I think that University of Houston is jumping on, but A&M really is kind of the pioneer as far as from a research and education standpoint. And so when we found out about this, we obviously were very interested, and I got to know the team and visited with the team. In fact, when I realized, okay, these guys are legitimate. They have a grasp on what they're doing. They're well organized. They're utilizing the resources of the city. And so because of that, we had already been, we've really been working on this campaign since May, I believe. Prior to the legislature even ending, we already started working on that. And I believe last week we got news, I believe it was on Wednesday of last week, a week ago today, we got news that Texas A&M University police, out of nowhere, unscripted, if you will, decided to stop arresting people for Class B misdemeanor marijuana possession, which is anything under 2 ounces, right? So a joint, blunt, things like that. And the reason that they said was that they were trying to be cognizant of their student base, which Texas A&M is a national university where students from all across the country come to, right? And they're fully cognizant that many of these students come from places like Nevada or California or Michigan or Illinois or New York or a lot of places where a lot of states where marijuana is fully recreationally legal and has a robust medical program and has been decriminalized and all of that. And so I think they have the understanding that, this is a reality, but I don't think that this was completely unprompted. It was 100% a part of the pressure that we are putting on College Station, because mind you, College Station police, Bryan Police, Brazos County Police, Sheriff's Department have all stated that they're going to continue to follow state law and that nothing has changed in those cities. So the fact that there are boots on the ground in College Station trying to make an impact at the city level, much like what's happening in Lubbock, has definitely correlated into changes at the university. And so that I think that really gives us a lot of hope moving forward from other universities, not just in Lubbock with Texas Tech, but also other campaigns that we've done with Texas State in San Marcos or UNT or TWU in Denton.
Yeah, real quick, Josh, before you go, real quick, I just want to hop in here because I do want to make a call to action to any folks that I know that work at Texas Tech that may be watching this or may catch wind of this. And if you want to wait to see how this plays out and see if the citizens of Lubbock vote this in or not, then that's fine. But I would propose to Texas Tech that should this pass by vote of the citizens or by vote of the council within the city of Lubbock, you should definitely update the policies on Tech campus around this issue, because it really won't make a lot of sense to be locking students up for this on campus when they can literally go across the street and then they won't get locked up. And on top of the fact of the kind of one of the main reasons why we're doing this is to not ruin people's lives, especially people who aren't doing anything but partaking, in the use of cannabis. If they're doing other things, it's a different story. But a lot of these are just, students getting pulled over with like a joint or something in their car. And then if they're in law school or they're in medical school, this can really derail their whole career. And we think that that's insane. That should not be happening. And so I would like to put a call out to Tech. Seriously, if anybody sees this or anybody's listening, think about it, try to push it through those levers of power. I unfortunately don't have any influence at Texas Tech, but I would propose that because we should really be trying to match up our efforts here in the city when it comes to what we're enforcing and what we're not. So just wanted to throw that in there. Go ahead, Josh.
First of all, the first time you jumped in on me, you picked up exactly the stick that I was going to ask you to pick up in a minute before you jumped in on me. But now I lost my train of thought a little bit. No, I want to highlight that I think it's also, I'm so glad people have talked about this, that this is a scenario where the voters can be the hero of this issue. And that's, so rarely the case in our state. And, that's one of the aims and hopes that I think everybody's aiming at here, is to bring the voters to the table and have them, put it to the test. So I'm glad everybody kind of picked up on that. And to that point, Austin kind of mentioned this, there's a little bit of like tension between where state law lies and what is kind of delegated into a local jurisdiction's purview. And I think it makes a good transition to kind of like ask the team, what's the reception been like? What has the media reception been like? What have we seen on social media of this? What are you seeing out in the streets? Because we know that this does put a little bit of a tension point on this. And like Austin said, that's kind of intentional. It cuts both ways, is to protect our people and to put some upward pressure to have this ultimately solved. And so I'm sure people have questions about that and lots of other things. So Kim, Cannon, Adam, maybe you all want to speak to like, what's this like on the streets? How's it been taken?
Well, we've literally been in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people, probably easily thousands of people now, because we've been out at events for 8 months in the city. You know, we've been out at Pride, we've been at Juneteenth, we've been at various other events, and then, you know, numerous events over the weekend. And I can count on one hand the number of people that told me, no, absolutely not. Literally 4 people have told me no. Everybody else is excited to see us. They want to hear more about it. We hit the media pretty hard over the weekend with our launch. And then we were out at the Lubbock Downtown Farmers Market Saturday morning, and we had people like almost jogging to our table when they saw us, like, we knew you'd be here. We knew you'd be here. We can't wait to sign. And that's the reception that I've gotten. I don't know if anyone else has gotten anything different, but that is my perspective, is that overwhelmingly everyone is excited.
Yeah, and even when we have talked to people that we haven't been sure about, whether because they're older, we feel like maybe they're more conservative, you know, they tend to be on board. And I think the other thing that has helped with that is that, you know, we're focusing our messaging for who we're talking to. You know, when we're at 420 Fest, it's more celebratory, you know, it's a little more typical 420 Fest of like, yeah, let's, you know, let's make, you know, let's decriminalize getting stoned. When we're talking to older crowds, you know, like when I spoke to the NAACP, that was not my attitude. I wasn't like, you know, let's celebrate all of us getting stoned. It was about the, you know, the unequal law enforcement and things like that. So I think that's the other thing, is when we have this issue meets people on so many different levels, and I think we've made an effort to hit people where they are. But I was curious, Austin, like, you know, like we just keep talking about how like we're not getting a lot of pushback. We're, you know, there was one organization that was a little nervous, and we kind of worked with them, had some compromise, and they said, okay, you know, we're not going to fight you on this. Has that been the case in the other cities that you've worked, or is it a little more, has it been a little bit harder to get people on board?
No, I would say that overwhelmingly, in every single city that I've canvassed in, whether it's Denton or Killeen, these were communities that were exceptionally receptive. Almost surprised that this is something that you could do at the city level. And I guess there's still debate as to whether this is feasible or not. I know right now Killeen has actually initiated their proposition, and it is fully in place and is being executed by City Council and Killeen Police Department. But they are also being sued by Bell County. And the judge has already stated that it's that the proposition is unconstitutional, but yet Killeen City Council recently just voted on, you know, spending $100,000 to fight for this proposition. So yes, I would say that really the popularity behind this movement is unlike any other issue that you could really draw up. It's really something that almost everybody is in favor of. And what I will say about Lubbock, what makes Lubbock probably the most unique campaign of all of them, is that it is the one that is the closest to an actual recreationally legal state. I mean, New Mexico is what, an hour from Lubbock, maybe a little over an hour.
About 90 minutes. Yeah.
Yes, from some places less than an hour to get to New Mexico. And let me tell you, these guys in New Mexico are making millions of dollars by putting up recreational dispensaries right on the Texas line, whether that is in El Paso, whether that is in Hobbs, New Mexico, which is real close to Seminole, whether that's in Texaco, which I know is not too far from Lubbock, whether it's Clovis, whether it's Clayton. These are all communities right on the border of Texas and New Mexico. In Lubbock, whereas Denton and San Marcos and Killeen, that's the I-35 corridor, right? We're pretty far distance away from a place like New Mexico or Colorado. And so I think that there's a lot of people in Lubbock that are going to New Mexico, and anybody that is not admitting that is lying to you. And they wouldn't be making millions of dollars on these border towns like Clovis if they weren't getting a huge market from a place like Lubbock or Amarillo or any of these other towns that are within an hour's drive of the border. So I think that we really get to see that popularity grow even more in a place like Lubbock, which might be contradictory to the conservative nature of the city, correct?
Right. Well, I think
yeah, go
for
ahead.
those of us who have been, working in politics and organizing and activism, it does go along with part of the nature of Lubbock, which is hypocrisy, which is we have to look one way, but we all act another. And so many people that are in power, that do have influence, they are so used to that, and that's one reason that those of us on this call right now, we get called like troublemakers and we get told we're too loud, is because that group has been so used to, playing both sides and doing what they want, but their public persona is different. But it's absolutely right, because I've even seen ads from like Alamogordo and Cloudcroft, like promoting, their cannabis, or sometimes, it's like Alamogordo CBD. It's like, oh, you're not selling me CBD from Alamogordo. And, and that's a waste. Like those aren't border towns. And so for them to know that they can target ads here in Lubbock, like everybody knows it. Everybody knows that's what's happening. But it's just there's an image that people think they need to keep, and they've been working hard to do that. And I think one of the things that our group has done, that Lubbock Compact has been able to do, is start to kind of needle people and say, like, we don't have to be like this. Like we can change. We can, start supporting each other and start, admitting that, like, yeah, a lot of us here smoke. And just like we did when, Lubbock went wet not that long ago, and people were finally like, yeah, we all see each other out at the Strip, and so it's kind of a similar situation. But yeah, we're sending lots of money out. And I think, it's the most vulnerable populations that are so at risk, because, if you go to Hobbs and then come back through Seminole or Denver City, it is very possible that, especially if the sheriff or sheriff's deputy clocks you going back and forth, in one day, which isn't all that uncommon. Hobbs has the casino there. And so, people go to the casino on a Saturday, hang out, come back. So those trips aren't all that uncommon, but they're more common now because of that. And so if one of those sheriffs, if they clock you, they'll pull you over just to see what they can do. And so I do think, I do think there finally is a realization of everybody being like, okay, we got to admit, like, we're all seeing each other in Hobbs. We all know, that's happening. And so I feel that changing a little bit here in town.
Yeah, I will speak to, because this is something that has come up several times as we're out and about. And then, I kind of always know who or what the loudest kind of pushbacks are, because whenever I do go and do an interview on a media station here in the city, I'll get that question. And I've gotten it 2 or 3 times now in interviews back to back. And it's the question about the ability to do this, because didn't the state legislature change it to where cities can't make their own rules at all? No. They did change where they can't make some rules. So the rule in Texas is that once the city is a certain size, you can have what's called home rule, which means you can change certain things about your city charter, whether or not they vibe with state law. The thing we're dealing with in particular is the penal code. The thing about legal language that I'd like everybody to understand is that if it does not explicitly say it in there, it's not in there. And so this does not pertain to the penal code, at least as of now. And that's what we're trying to update. So that's first and foremost, just on a technical level. But let's look at a scenario where the states or counties or whoever, first of all, we've been transparent about the pushback in some of the cities, and we've often referenced the Bell County suing Killeen, which is, to us, it just doesn't make sense. So this is literally what happened. The city council of Killeen took up an issue that was brought before them because there was a required amount of signatures collected by the citizens. They voted that down. Those citizens said, we want this to go to a ballot for the people to vote on. The citizenry of Killeen voted this in, not the city council. The citizenry of Killeen voted it in. And then, so when the city enacts it, because the citizens voted it in, the county sues the city. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not going to go anywhere. And that'll just have to play out. But let's play out a scenario where there's a bunch of challenges, or somebody big challenges this in the state. The hard time they're going to have proving that is because specifically we've already legalized it medicinally here in the state, and that gets expanded almost every time they have a session now. And so there's already precedent that they're going to have to fight against, and they're going to have to argue, why did you make it legal here and you're trying to keep it illegal here? And that's going to have to be a huge fight. The other unfortunate thing to all of this that would just kind of put all of this stuff to bed and kind of really start moving us in a better direction is the scheduling of marijuana. So federally, it's what's called a Schedule I drug, which means by definition, it has no medical uses, which is obviously false. We've got story after story after story of people with cancer that are utilizing cannabis for treatment. We've got people with epilepsy, Parkinson's, depression, chronic pain, PTSD, the list goes on and on. So there's clearly, and the research is out all over the world, that there's clearly medicinal uses for this. So not only is it that way federally, but Texas can control their own scheduling. And so the state actually could schedule it differently, and they just won't. The last thing I'll say on this is that this has kind of been spoken to about the people going to New Mexico. They absolutely are. We're 90 minutes away from New Mexico. People go there all the time for all sorts of stuff, and it's not even cannabis. People definitely go there from Lubbock to do this. So that being the case, Texas as a state is leaving so much money on the table and so much opportunity to fund the things that we desperately need to fund. We're number 40 plus down the line when it comes to how we fund mental health issues. And at the same time, we have abundant mental health issues. Here in Lubbock in particular, we have the highest percentage of youth attempting suicide in the whole entire state. And at the very same time, we're not investing in these things. And so people always want to bring up, well, where's the money going to come from? Lubbock, West Texas, the entire West Texas region where all of these farmers are complaining about their cotton yields and this, that, and the third, it is perfect for growing hemp. They have actively contested and refused to grow hemp. Even though that they can make money and this is happening right now. For those of you that don't know, this has been an ongoing struggle here in Lubbock with those who are experts in that field trying to get the farmers to just start growing hemp, because hemp actually is legal in the state to grow. And so we're already leaving money on the table now, but we're leaving so much more by keeping this where it's at. And so for folks worried about the pushback, I mean, technically anything could happen. But what everybody should want to happen is for us to go into a different direction. This is the same exact argument that was happening during prohibition of alcohol. And that led to all sorts of things, organized crime and all these kind of things. And what happened? Eventually they realized people are going to go have a drink. And not everybody is going to be an alcoholic. You're going to have some alcoholics. That happens. Just like you may have some instances where somebody may just be outright addicted to marijuana. You may have that. But that's a certain percentage, and that's not everybody. And people are going to use this. They're going to treat their various ailments with this, and you're not going to stop them. And I think that the longer we fight this, the longer we hurt ourselves.
Yeah. One thing I want to add to that real quick is that I think it's important to note that our state senator, Charles Perry, was vital in legalizing hemp. He was a big proponent of that. and we legalized it, and the farmers did not get on board. They didn't start growing it, so he decided to change his mind, and so now he's a big opponent of it, and he doesn't like, what we're doing and all of this. And so even, even our state senator who's pushing back on this, it's not because he really cares about it, because he was for it before he was against it. It's just because he realized, oh, that might not keep me in office if I push this. And so, but this is another one of those issues where I feel like if we come out and there's something that we can directly vote on, like the decriminalization, that will send a message to our political leaders that this is something that we care about. And so we can use this to start making bigger and better change in our area.
So I do want to provide one beacon of hope, which not a lot of people really know about, but forgive me if I'm wrong. Representative King represents a slice of Lubbock. Am I correct?
No, he's Amarillo in the Panhandle.
Amarillo, okay.
Amarillo, yeah.
Well, so we're not too far separated, but this is a conservative who was the chair of licensing and administration. And he is the one who set the hearing for HB 3652, which is the first retail cannabis bill to be heard in a committee hearing at the state legislature. And I remember you guys, y'all remember when we were pushing 3652 really hard. This is Joe Moody's bill, and Representative King, who's a very much conservative, I mean, about as conservative, panhandle conservative as you can get, even said during the hearing, he's the one that set the hearing for a legalization bill, that, look, I don't agree with the way you guys are going about it, but it's time to start having that conversation. And Representative King, though he may not be from Lubbock, I thought a tiny sliver of his district is like a Tetris shape. So like I thought a part of it touched Lubbock, but
it touches District 19, like it touches some of our congressional districts. So he does go down to like Kell County, but not all the way down to Lubbock.
But this is, it should give us hope that a lot of these conservatives who generally have been the main opponents from passing legislation are indeed exceptionally ready to start having this conversation, specifically within the Panhandle because of the proximity to New Mexico. And they themselves firsthand see what's coming from Colorado, what's coming from New Mexico. And I think that they're definitely starting to see, the change that's on the horizon in the state of Texas. There are parts of Texas that are not as privy to this, specifically the Rio Grande Valley, that is probably about the furthest thing away in Texas from a legalized part of the country. And so we still have a lot of cartel activity that's happening in the RGV and places like that. Lubbock, the Panhandle is actually what I would say in prime position to start making a lot of these moves, simply because of their direct relationship with New Mexico and seeing that burgeoning market that's happening out there. If anybody is saying, "Oh, Lubbock is conservative," there's no way that this has a chance, I would contest that is highly inaccurate at best, and fully speculative and without merit, because we're seeing even at the legislature, we're seeing conservatives that are embracing the idea of having a conversation about full legalization.
And real quick, before anybody else goes, you bring up a good point about the cartels, for instance, and a lot of people may not be aware that cartel activity does absolutely include a lot of marijuana sales in the state of Texas. Texas is pretty much the place where cannabis grown in Mexico and other areas comes straight across the border. It just is what it is. And there's a lot of folks here that are constantly going on and on and on about the border. If cannabis was legalized here in the state of Texas, and we were able to grow it on our vast state that's like the size of its own country, what value would it be for cartels to come bring weed to a place where there's abundance of it? What sense would that make for them business wise? They're going to go try to take it to other places where it's not legal. And so that's a huge thing that could be done to curb some of the crimes that are happening down at the border. And it's just, it to me, it's very interesting how a lot of these folks who are, you know, self-proclaimed conservatives or Republicans or what have you, who hold this stance, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. You're really keeping yourself from one of the goals that you actually have, or that you say you have. And so just another thing to think about. Anybody else got some stuff?
I would like to add on top of that is that you now have cartel members who are actually just getting people across the state line into parts of the state and actually growing the cannabis here in the state illegally, and then distributing it throughout.
They're already doing it. Yeah.
They're already doing that. And on top of that, a lot of the busts that come at the border when it comes to kilos of cannabis that are coming directly from cartel manufacturing, they want that to get busted. They want CBP and DPS and any other authority focused on apprehending marijuana contraband at the border. Why? So they can get their fentanyl across the border without any kickback. And harder drugs, cocaine, fentanyl, heroin, you name it, methamphetamine. Marijuana is just a front. They're not making any money. They're not making the kind of serious money that marijuana used to make them. Now it's more of a front so they can get the harder stuff in. If you take that front away and you allow law enforcement at the border to really focus on a lot of these harder substances, you're going to start seeing a lot more enforcement in fighting these drugs like fentanyl that for instance, Governor Abbott says we have a fentanyl crisis in this state. Well, if we have a fentanyl crisis, why are we still arresting people for marijuana possession? 95% of all arrests in the state of Texas for marijuana possession are for less than 2 ounces, right? Class B misdemeanors. And that's in the tens of thousands. So, it just doesn't make sense to continue this charade of marijuana prohibition. And you're absolutely right. It can make a tremendous impact in battling cartel operations throughout the state.
Our organization is a political organization. We're 501c3, we're a 501c4, we're a political organization. But we are not a traditional left, right, Republican, Democratic organization. We are wonky policy technocrats. We like evidence-based policy and democratic self-determination of people. That's what we're about. That and our principal mission of resolving disparity. That's why we landed right here on this policy. And I think Austin, Cannon, Kim, you guys have all brought excellent points to the table about how there's virtually no way that we can turn the policy proposal that we have brought forward where it doesn't have a obvious benefit and do obvious reparative, restorative work and really honor the two, sides of our organization, that the world isn't perfect. And so the need for progress is self-evident. It's like, duh. We, of course, need to, all of us, be progressives. And also, you brought to the forefront that there is nothing conservative about allowing our cash to get extracted to some other place to support their businesses. There is nothing conservative about not supporting a network and array of local businesses here that would be well capable of supporting this industry and businesses for both just human enjoyment of a plant, but also all the medicinal benefits that people, you guys have already talked about. There's nothing conservative about the government having itself all imposed into your personal business that has no bearing on anybody else. And so I think that you guys have really done a good job about describing that. Okay, I know we're getting close to time. I know Austin maybe needs to dip out, so I want to give Austin one last chance to promote anything or draw anything to our attention that we should, and then I want to toss it back over to Kim and Cannon to also do the same for Freedom Act, to tell us what people should be looking at for and where to find people on the streets and how to get involved. Austin, you go first.
So first and foremost, you can follow us at TX Cannabis Collective on Instagram. You can find us at TX Canico on Twitter. TXCanico.com is our website. Like I said, we try to be a source for people when it comes to news media to see that there is leadership in Texas that is fighting for every Texan's right to access plant-based medicine for whatever purpose they so desire. And that, this is an issue that is a winning issue. It should be a slam dunk. In that I truly believe that Texas has decriminalizing in one day, fully legalizing whole plant cannabis will have global impact. In that Texas is the last big market. Everybody always asks me, well, yeah, man, Texas is the last frontier for cannabis. When's Texas going to fall? When's Texas going to fall? You literally have everybody in the country with their eyes on Texas, because when Texas falls, really the whole system that has been built around marijuana prohibition and the greater war on drugs will crumble. And when the national marijuana prohibition crumbles, then the United States will have to account for that through a lot of its international drug treaties, because the war on drugs is really an international enterprise that is a compromise between many other nations. And so, like I said, the footprint that Texas holds when it comes to changing the global community's perception of cannabis is tremendous. And this right now is the Panhandle's time to shine. This is a lot of people, when they think about Texas, they're thinking about the Triangle: Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio. That is what people think of usually, generally, when they think of Texas. They're not used to thinking about a place like Lubbock, unless it's Texas Tech related, obviously. But, having Lubbock be on the forefront of this movement now, I think gives it a legitimacy that cannot be denied, right? You can say what you want to about places like Denton or even, San Marcos or Killeen, but a place like Lubbock is undeniable, true Texas. And if this campaign can be successful here in Texas, it truly deserves to be successful all across the state. And I really look forward to coming out on Saturday and really being a part of this campaign for the next 55, 56 days that we have remaining, and really truly making history, because I think that when Lubbock is successful, all of Texas is going to be successful. And I really appreciate y'all having me on to talk about and discuss this issue.
Yeah, definitely. And real quick before everybody else goes, I just want to propose a switch in language. Not when Texas falls, but when Texas rises to this opportunity. When Texas rises to this opportunity, the rest of the country will follow. Go ahead.
Just want to say thank you, Austin. You've been one of our statewide allies from the very beginning. You reached out to me on Instagram as soon as I set up that account, and I was so excited that someone outside of Lubbock was paying attention to us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Austin will be in town on Saturday. He'll be at our big rally at Wagner Park from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We have a personal goal to get 1,000 signatures that day. And so for everyone that's watching, if you haven't signed the petition yet, please come and see us. It's at the corner of 26th Street and Elgin Avenue. We'll be at the gazebo. We've got lots of volunteers. Come and sign. We're going to have free t-shirts for the first 100 people that sign that day. We've got snacks and drinks, lots of other events going on for the next 55 days. You can find them all on our website. It's freedomactlubbock.org/events if you want to look at those events. If you want to help us collect petition signatures, email me at info@freedomactlubbock.org. That's all I've got. Anybody else?
Real quick, I would also, are we going to have, will people be able to register to vote at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time we're out, we've got VDRs, and we've been registering literally tons of voters since Saturday. And there's still time for that. You can get registered to vote and sign the petition in a few weeks. So if you're not registered to vote in Lubbock and you want to participate in this historical event in Lubbock, Texas, and literally for the state of Texas, as Austin's been talking about, get with us. We'll register you to vote, and then come see us again in about 3 to 4 weeks and sign the petition.
I think that's the perfect end to the episode. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Austin, Cannon, Kim, Josh, as usual. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Share it far and wide, as usual. We'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, Austin.
I got